Welcome back to another episode of the SpeakEZ Podcast, powered by hireEZ and the Recruiting Academy. Today, we have a special guest, Matt Lowney, Managing Director at CoreCivic. Matt is a seasoned TA leader with a wealth of experience in optimizing recruitment strategies, developing high-performing teams, and driving operational excellence and talent acquisition. In this episode, we'll dive into key TA leadership topics, including rapid decision-making, recruitment marketing, sourcing evolution, and how to build a strong talent community. Plus, if you want more insight with Matt, he is speaking at the next FRBR conference on February 25th, and it's going to be a must-see session. So without further ado, Matt, welcome to the podcast.
Appreciate it, Dan. It's a whale of an intro. Let's set the bar high here. So let's hope we can make it worth the time, man.
Recently, you have been coming up with these videos on LinkedIn, and let's tap into some of those videos and the content that you're producing. One of those, you've spoken about rapid decision-making as a TA leader. What does that mean? And can you break down that practice and how it's helped leaders lead their hiring teams in a fast-paced environment?
Absolutely. And I'll be the first to say I didn't come up with this. It's something that HBR does and McKinsey, I think, does as a consulting practice, but it's I loved it. I've used it for years. So, RAPID's just an acronym for the roles of the decision-making process. I think we've all sat in meetings. Everybody has a bunch of ideas and everybody else thinks somebody else should be doing something, but you walk out and go, I don't know what you, me, we are supposed to be doing. And so that's why I love the simplicity of an acronym, but really it's just the role definition. So R is a recommend. So who makes the recommends? That's actually the person doing most of the work. There are folks who have to agree, like finance, right? You either have the money or you don't. So those kind of your veto power folks. Performers on the tail end, right? That's the person who must make a decision. We know who's doing what, when. It could be project management if it's a big project, right? There are just folks who simply have inputs, right? Could be for even HR system, could be finance, could be IT, could be whoever. And then obviously the D is the decision maker. Ideally, that is one human being that synthesizes all this and says yes or no. And so oftentimes it's easy to sit in a meeting and go, okay, who is the decision maker and who's going to go do this? And once somebody introduced this to me, I go, boy, there's meetings I lead. I go, boy, it is so obvious. The simplicity of those role definition, get us somewhere, right? And that's the whole point, get somewhere efficiently. So love it, use it. It has been wildly useful over years.
You say simplicity. How have you slowed down the process and make it simple in the ever-changing talent acquisition landscape right now? Because with AI and automation and all this stuff going on, how are you keeping it simple for your teams and having it be successful?
So right then, we all suffer from kind of well-intended initiative fatigue. It's got language reality, like all well-intended ideas, probably with good thought. There's some investment. There may not be investment. It could just be time. It's a process change. And I'm guilty as anybody. I'm like, I love a good idea. And I'm like, hey, let's go do it. And you have to pause and go, do we have the capacity? And is this the right thing to be doing right now? So trying to do a better job of saying, hey, here are the 2 or 3 things that are most pressing. Let's put everybody against that. And your point of like AI or whatever that means, right? Could be process automation, whatever you think that is for your company, is what should be doing. We don't have to work for perfection, or the 2 or 3 things probably from an activity standpoint we want to be doing. Let's get good at that. And also understand there's change management on the way, because you've got people on your team who are full throttle. There's other people who go, this scares the tar out of me, and everybody in the middle. And so you've got to bring everybody along and make it simple, right? I like to define people's roles that when they leave work today, they know if they've done these things, they've done their job. That's all I need them to do.
Let's define sourcing and recruiting in 2025. How do you define those roles and the function? Because it has evolved in the last 18 months.
Yeah, so it's a role definition thing first and foremost. I'd say I'll throw the other word we throw in there is passive, right? But sourcing, what's that mean, right? I've seen that. I don't believe it is looking on people who posted jobs like a deep resume database. Like somebody will say, that's sort of you're going and doing it. Those people didn't apply. That's just, I don't really think that's sourcing. You're not really going out there and finding people other people aren't talking to. So at the end of the day, that's kind of the litmus test I use for sourcing. Are we identifying people that other people aren't talking to? And how you scale it, it's really becomes a CRM process, right? It's the ongoing. That's what you kind of build. So for us and for me, I look at it and go, that's recruiting activity. Looking at databases of people who've got their resumes posted, looking at your own internal database, that's a process thing. Previous applicants, how you engaging with those folks. I look at those, how are you spinning up connectivity to people? That could be networking, list development. It could be, y'all's platform. I would kind of have squarely fallen into that wheelhouse of what I would define as, hey, they're actually out there doing something that perhaps other recruiters aren't doing, certainly well above and beyond just the advertising piece of the puzzle.
You said sorcerers, getting them in your talent pools and talent communities. Where do you see companies are hitting the mark on it? And where do you see it can improve?
So those are those full confession moments, right? For us is I'd say that we have ideas and we do execute some of them well. I would say, for instance, our military community, right, is strong in corrections, right? Just that's a personal passion for a lot of folks. We have a very well-defined kind of military engagement community list. We pull them in if they apply and we don't hire them. We ask them to be part of it, right? So we have to figure out for us, what are the community delineations we want to and how we want to communicate with them. We haven't figured all that out. What we do know is what we think is important to people come work here and how do we align, right? So I think we make communities safer. 98% of the people in our care, which is our language, go back in the communities, are they're equipped through substance use disorder, treatment programs, or they have a GED, whatever those things are. And we have a very pronounced rate of growth careers. So we're trying to kind of resonate all those communities that way. So for us, it is people, previous applicants. One of the things we want to do this year is go back and go, hey, we've got applicants in our database from 5 years ago. They have updated their skills. How do we get at that info and get them directed to us again in a way that is meeting both of us? So I'd say we have a PowerPoint of activities, the kind of the work plan where there's many well-intended things that we will get done, by the end of Q2 this year and really get defined on that stuff.
What is the major shift of, instead of going net new versus tapping into your already existing ATS and database?
Yeah, I was like, Matt got to go design the world. I would actually have workflows for job opens, right? And an auto before posting or even does anything, right? It goes to your employee referral network. It goes to your talent management process, right here, the talent successors for that role and your internal database. Because in theory, all of that's free. We just, as recruiters, didn't open roles and then just kind of move forward. We don't look at all of this work we've done in the rear, for the millions of dollars and thousands of hours. And so, short of, we don't have a system that does that. We're not there. We are doing it in a manual-ish kind of way, right? So we do want to get to that place where before we ever do anything forward-facing, let's go look at all the energy and the people internally and externally to engage with. Heck, and then we don't have to see new people. Right, we can go fill the job and move on with life. We haven't spent the money in advertising or really the effort on the sourcing side from an expense standpoint. So that's our view of the future. I don't know how other companies look at it, but we're immature at our organization around connecting talent acquisition and talent development to the talent management processes that we have here. So that is a clear goal for us this year.
How would you train your recruiting team and your sourcing team on that outreach? Because reaching out to somebody that's already engaged with your brand, already maybe applied to a role, maybe they got an offer or even worked at your company and want to come back. How are you coaching, teaching your recruiting teams on that outreach?
So a good part of what we've done, Fred, is to give them access to that information to our, we were very kind of closed around who gets access to stuff. So you kind of have to open up and be trustworthy. They're not going to say something dumb and they're going to contact the right people for the right reasons. And so at that point, give them access. And then the other is our CRM. So they can kind of scale outreach, personalize it, right? So I think a good part of it is the expectation. That's how we want them to do it. I want to say that's the biggest part, just setting the expectation, give you access and the expectation and also the incentive structure. That's the next piece of the puzzle. Make sure our incentives align to the activities that we want to have the right outcome. So Matt's world, right, is this sequence of internal referrals and talent management. And then the next would be I actually look at sourcing as probably the end of the train. We still have a very efficient way that we look at our advertising reply, right? So then there'll be roles sequence out that, hey, it's been 7 days, 15 days. We clear. I ain't going to get a fly for a doctor in the middle of New Mexico. Then let's really double down on sourcing efforts for the hardest to fill roles moving forward, right? And so these are the sequencing, and for recruiters to think about and structure their work that way is something that we're working on. Everybody is, I think, is early stage recruiters and their peers will think of it that way.
Yeah, you're right. The data that we're having, the response rate on a specific role, you can look at that holistically and say, hey, we're not getting a lot of response rates in this area. Let's allocate our resources more on the sourcing efforts. On these particular roles, we're getting a ton of response rates. So maybe we can pedal it back and process what we have currently right now and focus on other areas. And then you can decrease that time to fill. You can decrease the headcount quicker because it's strategic and you're utilizing that data.
This is one of those really cool things for our industry, our organization is very well aligned to the business because of the government contract. We actually receive fines for jobs when they're open past a certain period of time. So we as a company are very interested in getting this right. I have a weekly call on how to make sure that we are putting those energies towards the right roles that are causing the most, let's say, downstream negative financial impact. I feel that's a positive thing because of this org, you have to do it. It's not just kind of like, time to feel is great to make it better. It feels better. It matters financially.
Looking ahead into 2025, what strategies are you implementing to improve candidate sourcing, stay ahead of that competition, and implementing things to set your teams up for success?
So back in, right, let's talk about our kind of theme for success. We finally reached our teams like maturity, right? We had turnover, we had new teamers. So it's really cool to say, hey, we've as a collective recruiting teams have largely moved past I'm learning my job to how to mature my job. How do I get the upper end of my bonus range? So the why is there. And so now they're coming to us going, hey, I need this, I need that. I think that's a great tension to have in an organization. So they're pushing us. I can tell you, here's 800 things you should do. They feel the pain. They'll start asking me. So I think, culturally our move has begun. The other then becomes tool utilization, right? You can't on one hand complain, hey, I'm not making enough fills. You say on the other hand, I've given you this tool, you're underutilizing it. And then I love the analytics side, right? What's your response rate? What's your engagement rate? Have you tried to A/B test the messaging and the title and the end-to-ends? All of that is just, it's a management stuff that you've got to kind of do. The way we are set up here is I know across our 1,700 open jobs where we're getting applies. We have a media planning methodology. So we drive as many applicants as efficiently as possible. The recruiters convert. They know where they have gaps. And this is their responsibility, right? Like, hey, I'm good on this role. I need to pivot my energies and efforts over here.
You said you have a pretty good holistic view on where applicants are coming in, where we need to focus more on the sourcing efforts. Recruiting marketing is getting more and more strategic under the recruiting teams. You often mention 3 simple roles when you're recruiting marketing. Walk us through what those are and what are some successes that you've had attracting that top talent?
Yeah. So I don't know, this comes from some marketing handbook that just I've stolen this from or not. I don't think I can claim originality, but then any messaging we put forward, I want to make sure it's like, hey, it's true. It sounds bizarre. Stuff out there is true and true-ish. Like I want it to be foundationally true. So when a recruiter gets on the phone with a candidate, they say it's like, yes, and here's how I back it up with. We improve the lives of people. Okay, that are in our care grade. I can back that up with 1,200 people graduated from substance use disorder and this and that, guys. It's true. Does it resonate? I mean, do they care? Like, hey, that can be the greatest thing in the world, but if they don't care, it doesn't resonate with them. It doesn't move the needle of interest. And the third is, in my way of thinking, does it differentiate? This is the classic. Every job poster says we have competitive pay and benefit. It doesn't differentiate at all. So what are the things you're saying that hireEZ that isn't just kind of hyperbole and high-mindedness, like it actually is tangibly different as somebody's going out there and look. Also, we're going to move to every story here is a recruiting story, program stories and success of inmates and their lives are being better. Those are recruiting stories. We aren't using them that way. I want recruiters push this out. That's the next evolution of how we're going to take that messaging forward. Obviously, the idea that it'll make it easier for the recruiters when they talk to somebody, they've heard good things, they've heard about us. You're kind of softening it, the sale, if you will.
That's going to all increase that inbound workflow. How about outbound workflows? How are you leveraging hireEZ, other tools, and how has it impacted your ability to maybe fill roles faster, more efficiently, or getting that granular data and analytics to better help your recruiting teams be business partners?
This sounds heavy-handed, but I think mandating it, I know it sounds very not cool, but at the end of the day, I look at reports and say, okay, hey, you got plenty of candidates here, so your conversion rate is here, cost per apply. Hey, these roles here are cool. All you have to do is push through. These other ones you're not, right? So are you using your tools, right? And are you using them effectively, right? And that's the old school bully next to research and the hireEZs of the world. And I say this, this is not plug, right? We did an RFP, did actually choose hireEZ out of a kind of, disciplined process, not just because I have people who work there. I've heard good things. So it has been a useful tool for us. Inversely, we stepped away from investment and like we were solely because I don't like it. The response rate's not high and I don't get the direct contact. But again, that's a differentiator, not a good way for them, to back from brand messaging. So, and then the last piece is the sequence. There will still be roles that get stuck that we aren't getting there. What I like is that creates a tension where you go to other departments. It may truly be a pay thing. I will never start with pay. It's not the reason you don't recruit. I have to make the case here. We've done everything we possibly can. It is indeed a pay thing. We can make those cases in a business driven way, but I want to be able to say recruiting dollars are way cheaper than compensation dollars. We have created that discipline internally that we go to operations and ask for dollars for pay only after I make the business cases. We've done and all the way to resource. We've talked to all these people. This is a problem.
You are speaking at the FRBR at the end of the month here. Walk us through just a snapshot of what you're going to be talking about.
For a long, long time, I've thought about just core skills for recruiters. I think we are moving away. We have moved away from that, unfortunately, in a post-COVID world for whatever reason. So it's the back to basics, but it's the sale, 4S is sales, service, selection, and sourcing. These are things you as a recruiter, in my way of thinking, need to be good at. And how do I, through this, what we're going to talk about is that, these kind of 4S's and what are kind of the baseline skills all the way through to, we created flashcards here. I look at the sales process, objection resolution discipline, which is, hey, I'm not looking to make a move now. All right, well, here would be a structured response to that. I think recruiters do that. You validate the concern, you give them a counterpoint, and it's sales training 101. But we actually have flashcards that what I came up with. I think the 25 most common objections is I want them to see on the sales side, the sales process. We talk about sourcing here. Selection, we are still in the game of making sure we're making right recommendations to our hiring leaders beyond just what's black and white on a resume. Ultimately, we are in service to lots of people. I think a lot of recruiters don't love that, but that is what we signed up for, right? We serve hiring managers, we serve budget owners, we serve all these people, and we still have to get an outcome, sometimes despite them. So you got to do it with a smile on your face. Otherwise, being disgruntled, nobody wants to work with me. So that's kind of what we, I would, hope to get through to folks on my little session here, but the 4S's is a construct and they can take that to their org. And that can mean something vastly different than how they measure this stuff, how they want their recruiters talk to people out there in the world.
What's the biggest misconception about talent acquisition leadership?
Yeah. I don't say the cheesy part. It's a different hard and it's also a different easy. So, this is one thing I struggle with, which is your best recruiters are not your best leaders. Those are vastly different skill sets. And the trick is I have my best recruiters often get frustrated that they capitate it like senior recruiter or whatever that skill set is and hire somebody else off the street or restaurant. So one of the gaps we are trying to work on is how do we take our high potential folks who might be our next manager or actual director in the organization and start filling in the gaps, because you got to be good at the core skill, but it's just that it's a different hard. I sit and I don't talk to candidates at all anymore. It's weird. It's for most of the time in Excel and in meetings and project management stuff. There's recruiters on our trial, be close candidates far better at this point, and it should be that way,
What's one TA trend you think is overrated?
Listen, it's the professed death of a recruiter, right? We all live in this world. Do I think we might be a little overhired? Sure. All industries kind of go through that cycle right at the end of the day. So I do struggle with that a little bit, but I think you're going to find recruiters find connectivity that for long-term growth And it's going to be more of a talent management. Like TA tracks is one part of it, connectivity into internal and external talent channels are going to be what they expect from recruiters. And I call them that future.
What is one advice you would tell a recruiter just stepping into the industry in 2025?
Get good at the simple stuff right at the end of the day. It is amazing to me. We hired a lot of early career recruiters who call themselves recruiters. They don't know anything about recruiting. They know process applications. Be good at something. Really stand out at that one thing. But it's simple stuff like, hey, I'm the best sourcer on the team. I'm the one who can put together the best presentation or present data, or I know how to do talent mapping. Just be good at really one thing. And I promise you, your team, the organization will come to you for that stuff. I did that early in my career and it worked really, really well.
Love it. Out of your whole career, who is that one person that really changed your trajectory in your career in the recruiting?
Yeah, I've got it. I've thought about that a long time. I still stay in touch with that. My first management job as a recruiter, I was that guy that came in, did really well. Her name's Dina Levine. Still to this day, you hired me 20 years ago almost. It was fantastic, right? Because she came in and said, hey, I know you don't know anything about managing people. I know you'll figure it out. And we screwed it up a lot for a year or so. But we got to the point where, she supported me and allowed me to kind of mess it up, but also kick my butt a lot. Like she takes pride in that. And then at that point, you got to the point where our team was one of the better performing teams in the org. And so we're a high growth organization at the time. So they had to take risks on folks who maybe weren't really ready for the gig. So career wise, being in a moment of high growth in an org is good because they have to do that stuff. Like that guy give you opportunities. Most companies, frankly, are not at that point right now, recruiting wise. It's not the nature of the industry.
Awesome. Well, I just want to say thank you so much, Matt, for your time, your insights today. To the whole CoreCivic team, thank you for the partnership and being able to develop your recruiting teams. You're doing an amazing job putting the heart and soul into your teams and building up the next generation of recruiters. And I truly respect the heck out of you for doing some of that. So again, thank you so much.